everything starts in our mind. The Bible says renew your mind, right? Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Everything starts in your mind. Starts with a thought, then that thought goes to an action, and then that impacts your emotions. Think about when you wake up in the morning, you get out of bed. If the thought is, I'm overweight, or the thought is, he didn't call me last night, what happens then? The emotion sets in, probably some sort of anxiety and frustration. And then how do you behave with the outside world? Through that emotion. So mindset is really important. So I'm going to talk to you about what I think is the biggest threat to worthiness. And worthiness is this concept of you realizing that you deserve all the blessings in your life. You deserve to have an abundant life. And what I believe is the biggest threat to worthiness is seeking external validation from people. Right? And when we seek external validation, we look to people to tell us that we're beautiful enough. We seek external validation through possessions, through money, through being somebody's girlfriend or boyfriend or wife. There are a lot of different ways that we seek external validation, but that is dangerous. Because when you seek external validation, you are attaching your worthiness to somebody else, some other thing. And if we know anything about humans, we know that humans are fickle, right? And so on the one day I can love you, and tomorrow I might not love you. So if I attach my worthiness to you, that means if today you wake up and you just might be having a bad day, you don't tell me I look good, or you don't text me, or you don't like my status, then I now have a bad day because I've attached my worthiness to you. And so we're going to talk about how do we kill that spirit of attaching ourselves to worthiness. And if you think about it, every time you attach your worth to some external thing, do you feel stronger or weaker?
It's like they're pulling on your energy. It's weaker.
It's like what?
It's like they're pulling on your energy.
Yeah. And who gave them the power to pull on that energy?
I did.
Right, but we want to blame everyone else around us. But when you put your worth in a thing, in a title, in a status, in a person, you are in essence draining your power. And then what it does is that it puts you on a hunger chase. That you have to feel this hunger, and that hunger is insatiable. Insatiable meaning that it can never be filled, right? Because you're going to jump from one thing to the next in order to fill that hunger when you're seeking that validation from somebody else. And the thing is, we know that we should not seek validation from other people, right? I'm not telling you anything new, right? You know that. We should not be seeking external validation. But we all do it anyway. We all do it anyway because that's what the world is telling us that we need to seek our validation from.
Right.
And so I do a lot of talking about how do you walk in your full power, right? The first thing is to understand that we have everything that we need inside of us already. It's already there. It's waiting for you to unleash it. It is when we start seeking power externally that we get in trouble. And the way that you use that power is you have to consciously every day choose thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that lead you to a higher version of yourself versus a lower one. So the moment you choose external validation, you are choosing a lower version of yourself. So you're already stripping that power away from you when you make that choice. Right? Then we have to be self-aware and conscious to do this every day. And to walk in trust and love over fear and doubt. And if you follow me online or anything, I always talk about walking in trust and love or fear and doubt. There's a difference. When we walk in trust, we believe that the Creator will give us everything that we need when we need it. And if you check the track record, do you get what you need when you need it? Do you get the phone call? Do you get the $5? Do you get somebody bringing you something over? But we still doubt it, right? Or you can choose to walk in fear and doubt. And when you start walking in fear, fear is paralyzing. Fear will keep you in a lesser version of yourself. So walking in your power means every day you have to wake up and choose to walk in trust, choose to see the world as abundant, choose to see the world as working for you, versus walking in fear where you're doubting everything. You don't think that things are going to work out. It's a scarcity and a poverty mentality. And for those of us who grew up poor like I did, it's hard to break a poverty mentality. You can have all the money in the world and still have a poverty mentality. Which is believing that you can't, the world isn't going to give you what you want to get. I still like don't want to use all my dish liquid sometimes. I'm like, you can buy another dish liquid for $4. But sometimes that's hard to break off of yourself because that's what you grew up in. So I want to talk to you about how when we attach our worthiness to an external place, person or thing, how that starts to pull back your power. Then I'm going to talk to you about what do you do about it, and how you start to make some changes in your life, and how God dealt with me before I came here to be able to speak with you. Because there were some things I needed to break off myself before I can come and stand here in authenticity with you. So let's imagine you are attaching your worthiness to being somebody's wife. This is just an example, right? So when you attach your worthiness, meaning that I'm not going to be an important person in the world until I become somebody's wife, you then are probably going to start compromising some of your values and who you are so that this person can see you as worthy. How many of us have ever been in a relationship and we start compromising who we are because we want that person to see us as worthy? Right? So that's the first part where your power is starting to bleed from you. The second thing is your self-esteem starts getting impacted by it because you know you're betraying yourself. So you know you're pulling away from your work, but you can't stop doing it. It's a vicious cycle. And then you start to choose behaviors that are based on fear and doubt, right? If I don't act a certain way, then this person is not going to love me. But yet we say out of our mouths, I trust if he's meant for me, then it's going to work out. Or if she's meant for me. How many of you have said, I trust that if it's meant to me, it's going to work out? Raise your hand. I trust that God will give me what I need with this man is going to be fine. But your actions dictate otherwise. That if I would have put a video camera on you, I would see that you're not really walking in trust. That if it's meant to be, it's going to be. I would see you moving in all sorts of fear-based ways, like changing who you are, changing your dress, becoming a whole new person, because your worthiness is attached to somebody else. And that is how quick that we switch from walking in trust to walking in fear, and how our power is slowly being taken away from us. And we're attaching our worthiness to somebody else. All in the name of love. Right? Right. So we know that this is a problem. We know that this is a vicious cycle. So I'm like, God, what do you want me to tell the people? Because obviously it impacts me too. And we know we're not supposed to be doing it, yet we get caught up in the cycle of it. And I thought, like, here I am, I send out these mindset texts every day. I say a line of my prayer every day about breaking external validation off of me. Yet I still struggle with it. Again, hence the reason why there's nothing wrong with you when it doesn't work. And so what God told me is that you need to break this off of you before you can even speak to these women. And I was fasting and praying because I wanted a word for you all, and I was drawing a blank. Nothing was coming to me. And I was like, okay, God, this is like, I woke up this morning like, okay, a couple hours to showtime. What's going to happen? And what God revealed to me is that you still struggle with that. So you can't get up there in front of them and say this on a platform if you haven't broken some things off you first before you stood up there. And so one of the things I realized is that we don't believe that we are enough. And the word that I heard is, I am who I am just as I am. I am who I am just as I am. And the reason why we don't believe that is because we don't see ourselves as complete. How many of you look at yourself and see yourself as lacking something? That doesn't mean we shouldn't have self-improvement, because we should improve ourselves. I don't want to ever send that message from this platform. But that you see yourself as not being complete. Or we think that God is not going to work something out for us. Or we have a fear of losing people. A fear of status being taken away from us. A fear of not being seen as man enough or woman enough. All of those fears are examples of us thinking that we are less than who we are. And what really complicates this when we are in a relationship with people, and why attaching your worthiness to external things are really dangerous when we start bringing other people into the mix. Because imagine if you have two people who struggle with attaching their worthiness to external validation. So now I need you to make me feel good every day. And then now you need me to make you feel good every day. So then we enter into something that's called a power struggle. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous power struggle because then it results in manipulation and control by each person, trying to pull the next person to make them feel better. And it dooms a lot of our relationships, our romantic relationships, our family relationships, our friendships, because both of us are seeking this external validation for our worth. So how many people are willing to admit here that you can hear yourself in some of what I'm saying? Just raise your hand. So you're not crazy. So when somebody says to you, why don't you change your life after I give you a scripture, you can say it's deeper than that. It ain't that easy. That's why I'm not moving, because it's deeper than the scripture that somebody's giving me. It's that connection between that inner and outer world. So let me tie it together to you. So I was like, okay, God, you done revealed to me this is an issue I got to deal with, and I got to talk to the women. I need more to this. And what God revealed to me is that I needed to go through an activity where I needed to address all the ways that I'm seeking external validation from my work.
Yes.
I needed to write it down, and then I needed to ask myself, why was I seeking external validation for my worthiness? Now, people will look at me and not even think, I have family members in the audience, they just think that that's something that I struggle with. So I took out my pad and I wrote down 50 things. I could have kept going. But 50 ways that I was seeking external validation to prove my worth, from friendships to sister to daughter to coach, all of these ways that I was needing something to validate me, that I was attaching my worthiness to, which is impacting me being able to enjoy my life and live a full life. So I wrote those 50 things down, and I was like, okay, so what's the next? It's all out there. And I was like, I need to do, as a coach, there's always some sort of ritual that you want to do to remove something away. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna set it on fire, right? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into the kitchen, set the pad near my counter, and I was like, okay, let me turn on the water because I don't want to set no fire alarm off. I'm gonna tell this building I set it off, burning my validation. So I set the pad down. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna use matches. I'm gonna use a lighter. I went to get my lighter. Couldn't burn it. It was that much of a stronghold on me because it was really my truth about all these things that was holding me down. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go make me some coffee. I went to the Keurig, wiped the Keurig down, put a coffee maker there, made my coffee, set it on the side. Still, I did not burn it. And finally, God was like, you need to take care of this. So I went through each one of those, and I said what that external validation was, why I needed it. Like, why did I need to be seen as, a motivational coach? Why did I need to be seen as the supportive sister? There's nothing wrong with being seen as that, but when you attach your identity to that, that's problematic. Because then if I'm not getting fed that way, then that's going to impact my relationships, right? I went through each one of them, and I did it. So I'm going to encourage you, when you leave here, even while you're on your phone, to write down the ways in which you're seeking external validation and to be honest with yourself and why. And then God said, you need to make peace with this and let it go. So I had to make peace with it. And I burned it without setting off the fire alarm. And then, as any person knows, a good ritual requires more than burning. You got to have something to follow up because the thought will come back to you. It will come back to you. And so after I burned, I was like, okay, God, what's next? He reminded me that today was the 8th day of the year of a new beginning. So I just basically started the process of dying to these old ways of myself and then setting a new process. This was my new beginning for me to start behaving differently. But then God also spoke to me and said, you're going to have to replace those automatic negative thoughts, or what I call ants. You're going to have to replace those automatic negative thoughts that tie your validation to people every day. It's going to come back. It's not going to miraculously go away. Over time, it will go away. But you're going to have to replace it with the truth of the matter, with the truth of what's actually going on, which is that I am enough. And then I heard in my mind, I am who I am just as I am. It was so clear to me. I am who I am just as I am. And to me, that was a moment of saying, I am enough who I am right now. I'm enough. I'm enough without the titles. I'm enough without the possessions or being attached to somebody. I am who I am just as I am. Pretty clear statement. So today when those thoughts tried to come in my mind, I was like, I am who I am just as I am. And when you say just as I am, that means that you don't need something added to your life. You break that insatiable hunger for more. Now let me be clear, you should strive to be in the highest version of yourself. You should strive for self-improvement. But you should see it as an addition to you walking in that higher version of yourself. Not as you having to compromise your values and who you are because you're attaching yourself to some external thing. And so the last thing I want to say to you is that I got taken back to, I'm like, there's a scripture that connects to this. Because I always ask God, I need you to connect the scripture to everything that I'm doing, right? And when Moses was commissioned at the burning bush, I'm going to give a little Bible lesson for folks. And Moses said to God, what do I tell the people when I come to them? And he says to tell them, I am who I am. I am who I am. I am. And to me, that was like the crowning moment of God saying, I am who I am, just as I am. That same authority that God gave Moses in that place, of when people ask you who you are, he gave him the connection to his rod later on, not in the beginning. The first thing was to say, I am who I am. And that should be a reminder for us that I am who I am, just as I am. So I really want to encourage you to dig deep and really think about why you have this insatiable hunger to be validated by things outside of you, and then start to break those things off. I'm not saying burn them because I don't want any lawsuits about what can be burned, and you need to figure out a way that's best for you to do that. But I want you to do this activity with yourself. And the last thing I'll leave you with is what I tell my coaching clients. When they're like, okay, Niece, this is great, you gave me all these activities, but I might not remember this 3 days from now. And I said, I'll tell you something. What I believe is we always need a release, right? When we get in that mindset of, I need to be attached to someone because of status or whatever, that means you've been hooked. It's the language we talk about in mindset coaching. It's like hook, Sam makes hook you off Apollo, and you've been hooked by something. You need to have a release, right? So a release could be I am who I am just as I am. But another release to ask yourself when you get comfortable, because it's comfortable being in the lower version of ourselves. It's comfortable being in the suffering and woe is me, the world is out to get me, don't nobody want to give me nothing. It's been a hard, that's a very comfortable place to be in. Because you don't have to rise to your power. Many people I coach, I find out, we all have a fear of greatness. That's the reality. We're scared of maintaining our greatness. And so we stay in a lesser version of ourselves. So the one question I always ask them to ask themselves is, how long are you willing to pay the price? And I want to hit you in the gut. And that's the hit you in the gut question. How long are you willing to pay the price to be in that lower version of yourself? How long are you willing to pay the price to be the person that's always talking about the world is out to get you? How long are you willing to pay the price to have your attachment to something external to you? Keep asking yourself that question. After a while, it's going to get uncomfortable because you're going to start to really get on what I like to say, the balcony of your life, and to see all the patterns in which you are paying a price of living a vibrant life, which God has called us to that life. So whether you believe in God, the universe, or the stones, we are not called to a life of pure negativity and living in the lower version of ourselves. So I'm going to ask you, how much longer are you willing to pay the price to tie your worthiness to seeking external validation? Thank you.